It began in 1903 at the Cane Ridge Meeting House. 28-year-old Olivia Buckner of Bourbon County taught Sunday school there. And on that day, Yutaka Minakuchi came to preach.
And he is painfully good looking.
The Japanese seminary student was in Kentucky studying the ministry. Their love affair and marriage would shake Buckner's family and make headlines from Bourbon County to Los Angeles.
My name is Olivia Buckner. I grew up in Paris, Kentucky, not France.
Rose Buckner, an actress and playwright who now lives in Chicago, says it took 17 years to write the solo performance script. The marriage of a woman from an old, wealthy Kentucky family to a Japanese man was news in 1903. The Los Angeles Record proclaimed bride-to-be met Oriental student at Village Church. It was love at first sight. The newspaper story called Rose's grandmother the reigning belle of the bluegrass. But Rose says some members of her family were so outraged by a mixed-race marriage that they considered killing the young Japanese man.
That clearly was the line that was crossed, that you could not cross, that would make him a member of the family, and that would introduce his blood, just to be very graphic about it, into their white family, and that was intolerable.
The couple eventually married at the home of another side of the family that supported them. Within a year, they had a baby, Rose Buckner's father, John. Rose says her grandmother and new husband faced discrimination, including vandalism.
And then I saw it. Go home, Chinks, scrawled in big letters on the side of our new Cadillac.
The couple later divorced after 11 years of marriage. Rose says her performance honors her grandmother's memory.
And I think it was a story worth telling, that she followed her heart, that she really did what she thought was right at the time.
Off the beaten path at Midway University, I'm Sam Dick reporting for WKYT.
Well, Rose Buckner also performed the reigning belle of the bluegrass in Lexington, Frankfort, and Paris last month.